Why is it so hard to say no, even when we know that we shouldn't? This is one of the most annoying parts about trying to set boundaries. It's all the guilt that comes along with setting them, especially if there's something that we're not used to actually setting. Now, this is something it's taken me a long time to learn, and that is setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's absolutely necessary for your well-being and relationships, especially as a working woman, especially as a working mom, and especially if you are either a leader or aspiring to be a leader. So by the end of today's episode, you are going to know exactly how to set boundaries without all of the guilt, even when you feel bad saying no. You're listening to The Next Step with Corrie Lo, where we transform overwhelm into confident action. I'm Corrie Lo, keynote speaker, coach, and working mama of four, here to help ambitious women just like you take the next step, whether that be leadership at work, at home, or in your community. Let's get started. So I used to be so bad at setting boundaries that I was once challenged by my therapist to start doing so. And as a result, I devoted the entire year of 2022 to the word boundaries and all of the skills that I was going to need to learn how to do it. I couldn't set boundaries if my life depended on it. It was a challenge for me to even just set aside an hour in the morning for me to work out and do things for myself. I would always feel guilty if my husband was upstairs hanging out with the kids and trying to get them ready for school while I was doing that. And even worse yet, I allowed really terrible behavior from people over the years, ranging from the most extreme to being in an abusive relationship at one point in time, to even later on in my business and in my career, accepting behavior that was clearly communicated, so I thought, but allowing them to push that boundary with me. So it's easy to know where all this guilt comes from, especially as women, because we as women, we're hardwired to be caretakers and caregivers. So we want with all of our might to say yes to people and their requests. And when we don't, it's very easy for us to fall back into patterns with fears that we're disrespecting other people by saying no. Some other things that pop up, and at least definitely did for me over the years, was constantly worrying about whether or not I was going to be seen as being difficult or being selfish. Also, it depends on the way you were raised. So culturally, a lot of family conditioning sometimes can relay to people feeling guilty for asking for things or for setting a boundary, especially for women. As little boys, a boy that sets a boundary is known as being assertive. Look at him for standing up for himself. A girl that does the same thing is called difficult, right? So it's no wonder why when we grow up, we often feel this way. So one key mindset reframe is guilt doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it just means that you're breaking an old pattern. So if this pattern is something that you've been expected to do for many years, it doesn't mean it's something that you have to do. And sometimes we feel guilty because we're not meeting the previous norm. So really, this is the root of it. Boundaries are about self-respect. It's not about allowing other people to control you or you controlling other people. Boundaries aren't about controlling others. They're about protecting yourself and protecting what it is that you need so that you can help and serve other people in a higher capacity when it's in alignment for you. So as a great example, if somebody gets upset that you set a boundary, this isn't anything for you to have to feel that you have any guilt to carry with you, because it actually says more about their expectations than it does about your decision. Just because they expect it doesn't mean that it's something you need to deliver on. So when it comes to setting boundaries without guilt, I found there's three core things that really help tremendously with this. Number one is to clarify your non-negotiables. What are your limits? Where do you feel yourself being drained? It's really up to you to know what it is that you need to set boundaries on. So for me, as an example, during my 2022 year of boundaries, there was definitely boundaries that I needed to set with specific people in regards to communication, right? There were definitely boundaries that I needed to set in regards to whether or not I was going to respond to somebody who would be, for example, emotionally dumping on me. I had this one instance with somebody I was very close to, and I just became their emotional dumping mat, and I was just done with it. So I needed to set boundaries around what kind of communication and what kind of conversations that I was willing to be a part of, and learn how to do so in a way with love and without judgment, right? So that's number one. You got to clarify what your non-negotiables are. You don't want to be a doormat anymore. That's great. Start there. Number 2 is to communicate clearly and kindly, right? So you want to use short, confident statements, and you don't need to over-explain. In fact, when you over-explain, it actually takes away all of your power in doing so. So as an example, you're at work, you're completely overloaded. As it is, you're pushing up against doing overtime. You can say, and this is okay, I can't take on any extra projects right now. There's no need to apologize. You don't need to feel bad that you're already overloaded with all the things that other people gave you to do. Number 3 is the most crucial aspect of doing this without the guilt, because guilt is the reflection of you taking on other people's reactions as your own. So what you need to learn how to do is how to let go of managing other people's reactions, right? If someone's upset, that's their emotion managed. It's not yours. There's no reason that you need to carry that with you. You got enough of your own stuff going on, hence the reason for the boundaries. So if somebody's upset for you for throwing them up, that's on them. That's not on you. So how exactly do you navigate when people push back? Here are some really common pushbacks and exactly how to go about handling them. So first up, but what if they get mad? It's going to happen. It's bound to happen. So remember that their disappointment is temporary, right? They're not going to be mad at you forever. They're not going to no longer be your friend. If it's your parent, it's not like they're going to disown you. 9 times out of 10, it depends on what your relationship is. But either way, right? Their disappointment in general is temporary. Your burning out based on those requests is going to last way longer. Your burnout, your resentment, all of the emotions that you carry surrounding being overextended based on their asks is going to be far more damaging to the relationship than their temporary disappointment and discomfort. So next up, it's what do I do if I feel guilty? Yeah, I know you're telling me, Corrie, that it's not my responsibility to carry that emotion, but what exactly do I do? Again, you want to just remind yourself, I'm not responsible for other people's emotions. This is not my guilt to carry. If this person had respected my boundaries to begin with, we wouldn't be in this situation. So it's not up to you to carry. And lastly, what if I don't want to seem rude? And truth is, kindness and boundaries can coexist. You could set boundaries with kindness and compassion. It's no reason you got to be about it. So you're not being rude by adhering to a boundary. It's actually an act of service long term because you're ultimately going to be able to show up for people in a much higher capacity by having that personal need met. So one thing to remember, the first time that you set a boundary, especially if this is something that's new to you, you're going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to feel the guilt. You're going to potentially deal with somebody being angry or aggressive or upset. And this is just part of the process. The second time you do it, it's going to feel empowering because you will have learned by that point, the first time you did it, the world didn't end, right? Things were okay. You were able to patch things up. And better yet, 9 times out of 10, they started respecting the energy you were putting out there and reflecting it back to you. Right. So I would love to know, what is one boundary that you need to set, but maybe have been avoiding? Go ahead. You could drop it in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you're working on and which of these tips you're going to use starting today. All right. So to recap what I shared with you today we talked all about how to set boundaries and to do so without the guilt. And in doing that, I shared with you 3 core steps you want to remember. The first one is to make sure that you clarify your non-negotiables. You have to be super, super clear on what you are not going to make exceptions for. From there, you got to communicate clearly as well as kindly what those needs are. And then last but not least, because there potentially can be conflict, it happens, people get upset, you need to let go of the feeling that you need to manage other people's reactions. That's where the guilt comes from. You feel guilty they're reacting the way that they are. But truth is, if they're upset, that's their emotion to manage. It's not yours. So if you found today's episode valuable, please write us a review, share with a friend. The more and more people we get involved in these conversations, the easier it's going to be to get more women feeling confident about stepping into the leadership roles that we really deserve to be in. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for checking out The Next Step with Corrie Lo. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend, subscribe, and leave a review. Together, we'll transform overwhelm into action, and we'll keep taking the next step towards confident leadership. See you next time.